Good evening. Welcome. It is
Okay,
Skeetnet Live.
so I'm
Hello.
cheating. What I've done is I've loaded up a stream, the YouTube video.
Oh yeah.
So now I can watch it and I can see the whatchamacallit.
Good question.
The quality. You've doubled the list of viewers, the number of viewers already. Derek, you're all crystal clear in Lancashire. How are you? Hello, Derek. Are we functioning?
Thank you, mate. You're looking a bit sort of Minecraft over there.
Oh, right. Okay. We've got a few problems with the signal this evening. I think everyone is using the bandwidth that are on the internet, probably as a result of today's happenings in Tynwald. So I'll let you lead the way, Michael. How are you doing?
Good to be with you, Jed. I'm happy. I'm healthy. Things could be a lot better, but also things could be a lot worse. And every day I am optimistic because we are a little bit closer to coming out of this lockdown, and hopefully we will be there very, very soon.
And Derek, across the water, have you had the letter for your jab yet? Oh, Derek, I'm not. Are you hearing me, boys?
Funnily enough, I didn't have a letter. I had a text, and the slightly annoying thing is, you're very sort of crusty, to be honest with you. Like I say, you're a bit Minecraft. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah. Okay, we've got something there.
Yeah, I'd contact your broadband supplier, mate, because it is atrocious. However, yeah, I've had my text today. They've sent me to the back end of Middle Earth, a place called Knot End, which is quite a drive from here. My wife, her job was 10 minutes down the road at one of the local football clubs, so that's a bit annoying. But it means that I'll be jabbed up before I'm thrown into the fore in terms of the lecturing side of things at university. So I'm quite pleased with that.
Excellent.
It sounds like you've got a bit of a different system over there, Derek. How exactly does it work? So this is your vaccine text, or?
Yeah, it was quite strange because the missus had a letter, and I got a text. So why that is, I have no idea whatsoever. But it worked really well. Got a text, went on to. It linked through to say that our practice with another practice, go on the slot, press the text, job done. Really impressed.
So that's quite a change and difference from here in the Isle of Man, where it seems that people are receiving letters in the mail. Some of those letters are not being sent due to sort of error. And then when it's a letter here in the Isle of Man, you then apparently need to make a phone call to 111 to say that you are interested in getting a vaccine, and then after that, one they call you back at a later time to schedule in an appointment.
Yeah, but it keeps people in work, Michael. That's the main thing. Literally, I've been sort of up to my backside in alligators today trying to get a big job finished, and it literally text went off. I thought I better deal with that. It literally took me 2 or 3 minutes to sort out. Just check my diary, look for a slot, bang, job done. So that's next Thursday afternoon. It's the old thing, isn't it? I mean, again, I've been a long time about the Isle of Man having its own vehicle registration. Buy a partition file off the DVLA and let them do it for you. They've got all the systems and everything. There's no preciousness in it. Just buy a proprietary off-the-shelf solution for it. And I'm sure that with all the money they've spent on all this nonsense over here, they'd have been quite happy to say, yeah, you know what, another 80,000 for your little parish, we can sort that for you, not a problem at all. But no, we're going to do it our way. We're going to make it clunky. We're going to make it un-user-friendly. We've got to piss people off. It's just the way, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, Derek, here in the Isle of Man, I understand it's people aged 70 and above who are getting a letter. There might be some who are now the 65 and above. Of course, we wouldn't want to reveal your age to our viewers, but are you in the 65 plus category across the England?
Nowhere near. I was 53 1st of March, so we're. They really are rattling along with it. It is very, very impressive. And you know what? The other thing that just sort of comes on the back of that, I don't know if I said it to all of you, but there was a huge spread this Saturday. I know I sent it to Jed. A huge spread in the Telegraph about, look, bank holiday, May bank holiday is looking really good. These are all the things you can do. The stuff in Ireland, England, Wales, all little places. Because the other man is firewalling its own Manx, or the Manx problem. Well, it's not actually a Manx, it's a global problem. Rather than aligning itself with the UK's solution at this point, it's cutting itself off in terms of the tourism take. Whereas if it just swallowed its pride and said, look, let's just bung in with England now. They're well on with the vaccine stuff. We're getting a hang of this. They could open the tourism gates again. But it might well be the way things are going. You guys are way behind the curve in terms of tourism and leisure opening up for the national market or for the UK market, and miss another season, which is for operators like Jed has got to be a real worry.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, in that I've been looking at some global data from the US, which is suggested.
Ta-da! We are back. Can you hear me, Tommy? Can you hear me? I think we've got the three amigos back together. Michael, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear, Jed. Happy to swap with anyone who can't.
So we were talking about vaccinations, and I got my letter today. Okay, and I'm.
That's a bit wordy.
I'm 50. It's huge. It's huge.
What's that all about? I had a 50-word text.
Oh no, this is the maximum use of the paper, both sides.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so what I had to do, I thought, right, I'm not going to ring 111 because all the hard-pressed, hard-working, absolute heroes, front line, I don't want to bother them with arranging an appointment. So I went online. So you had to find the web address, yeah, plug it in, but I couldn't book my appointment for some reason. So I must have got the letter too early, so I'm not kind of on the system. I don't know what's happened, but it's okay. I'm in no rush to have the vaccine. I'll leave it a few days and come back later to see whether I can go on. So there's that little story for you. So what else have we got to talk about? I mean, really, the hot topic had to be Tynwald today, and it was like a grand slam in one of those big wrestling bouts where everyone was in the ring, pulverising HQ in the chair. It was unbelievable.
Giant haystacks.
It was. And really, just to give a bit of a recap, what's happened is there were the likes of Chris Robertshaw, June Watterson, Claire Barber, Julie Edge, Tanya, Laurie. They were all firing in salvos from all angles just to scrutinise how the decision came about to deal with the steam packet and the inquiry and so forth. So we don't want to do this one to death. It's all over social media. I'd just recommend someone just listen in to the debate. It's on the Tynwald website. Just take about half an hour and take it all in. I mean, Michael, have you had any kind of reverb on this one?
So just to be clear, one of the most remarkable revelations of today was that the Chief Minister admitted that the decision not to prosecute had not been made officially by the police or the Attorney General, but by some sort of vibe of officers or something on the ground or some sort of...
The coalface was the term.
So it seems to me that if you're a working class woman who stops off at Laxey to fill up her car with petrol on the way from Douglas to Ramsey, then you get sentenced to 4 weeks in prison. But if you're inside the clique, if you're a government official who's made stuff up and caused an outbreak and subjected us all to 4 weeks of lockdown and, you know, at least one death and possibly more and 19 or 18 or however many people in hospital, plus literally hundreds of cases, we seem to have a case where the senior leaders of the government are all acting like Obi-Wan Kenobi, saying, walk along, there's nothing, these are not the criminals you're looking for.
Burgled, mugged, run over. Why not join, or why not ring the civil service, a real alternative to the police? It's absolutely crackers. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, if I was Gary Roberts, I'd be feeling really like my nose was put out of joint at the moment, because they've just completely circumvented the investigating authority, which is the police on this matter. It's no different than the other breach, and you would have thought that the Chief Secretary or Howard would have rung the Chief Constable and said, would you mind running a set of eyes over this and a short form investigation to see if there's a prima facie case, which they would then have referred to the Attorney Generals to make sure that everything was above board and transparent. And at that point is where, if there was a decision not to prosecute, that is where it should be made as a matter of public record, which is what it would be. I am gravely concerned by the way this has panned out, because it suggests to me that there is a bloody great big brush being used to sweep some right crock under the carpet. That is the only way that I can imagine this is panning out. And what seems to have blindsided Howard is the fact that this is being played out in plain sight. The public can see what's going on, Howard. It really isn't just sort of, one of these behind closed doors things. It's not going to go away. So there's some real ethical questions, if nothing else, that need answering on the back of this.
It was quite stark listening, and I think he was caught on the back foot in some ways. It was a bit like a police interview where it's all going wrong. He was getting bombarded from all angles, and he did sort of state that it was the Chief Secretary who made the decision about the criminality aspect, and then I think it could have been, I can't remember the backbencher who it was, but they said, were the police involved? Were the Attorney Generals involved? No, and then it went down that pathway. So it's going to be an interesting little conundrum there to work out. But Michael, as you rightly said, I think we had about 60 people put to jail, 50 people put to jail last year, and they all went through the process, didn't they?
Yeah, we certainly had dozens of people arrested. And the default sentence seemed to be 4 weeks in prison. And that included a woman who was fled from a drunken domestic disturbance at night to go to a homeless shelter. Now, I can accept that she did the wrong thing by calling a taxi rather than the police. But if we are going to say that causing an outbreak causes no criminal liability because of a simple misunderstanding, then what she did is certainly no worse than whatever has happened here. And that's why we've really got to get to the bottom of it, because now it is increasingly difficult for people to believe that the rule of law is operating. And so many hundreds of years ago, these isles instituted, the Magna Carta from 1215, never really technically applied to the Isle of Man, but it's certainly ingrained in our culture. And it instituted for the first time that everyone was subject to the law, even the king. And what we need to ensure here in the Isle of Man is that everyone is subject to the law, even the Chief Minister, even the Chief Secretary, and even the insider government officials.
And I think, the layers on the cake, we've got the issue about the schools and the information surrounding that. And then we've got the famous flip-flop Saturday, where they kind of got it wrong. And they were saying, that they only acted on the intelligence and the data that they had. But really, it was a bit like if your house was on fire and you can smell smoke and you maybe touch the door and it's a little warm, but they waited until the neighbours phoned up to say your place is ablaze. It was, we knew what the action was to take, and as we've discussed before, there were some preventative actions that we could have undertaken in the week before, such as, social distancing, wearing masks, and those options were on the table all along. And now, how many cases today? 40, 45? What have we got?
Yeah, Yeah, so today there are 45 new cases, taking the active case total here in the Isle of Man to 872. There are currently 19 people in hospital, and it goes without saying that we hope that every single one of those 872, including those 19 in hospital, get out of hospital alive, and we hope that they have full and healthy recoveries. But it is clear now that we have had a significant outbreak, and I can understand people getting it wrong if it's orders of degree. Like if you say, if you're kicking at goal and you miss by a couple of degrees and it hits the crossbar and you miss, well, at least you were roughly on target. But here we had the farce of the government on Sunday. The Chief Minister deliberately said it is perfectly safe. The Health Minister used the same phrase, it is perfectly safe. The Director of Public Health said, I fully endorse what the Minister said. There was no equivocation. There was no consideration if there was risk, there was a possibility. It was perfectly safe. And then when they found out and made a decision to go into lockdown on Monday afternoon or Monday evening at some time, they made the decision. They then kept that decision a secret for another day until after people had gone to work, until after all the kids were at school, and deliberately kept that a secret. I think that really beginning to raise questions now about just their judgment, right? Because we can understand, look, it's a pandemic. You don't know you don't need to be 100% spot on goal 100% of the time. But when you completely go from it is perfectly safe to we now have 872 people infected confirmed, plus an unknown number of other additional people, to the point where now over 1% of the entire population of the Isle of Man is now infected and now confirmed to be infected with the coronavirus, which I believe is higher than any place in the United Kingdom at any stage in the pandemic. This is, rapidly escalating. And to go from perfectly safe to this, shows that their judgment is just deeply flawed.
In such a short space of time. Now, Derek, from the other side of the water, if there was a popularity rating or a confidence rating in government, the police and the judiciary, and I'm just picking up on James has just sent a comment in saying a lot of Manx people have lost their confidence in those elements. What do you think?
I was literally just thinking the same thing myself, really. I didn't listen to Tynwald today. I understand it was quite probing, but where is the call for a vote of no confidence? Because if the public are saying that they have lost confidence in their administration, in Comyn, then surely one of two things has got to happen. Either there's got to be a degree of humility and magnanimity and a resignation, or a vote of no confidence and start to actually unpick this mess. It doesn't seem to be happening. And today we saw that I believe questions were voted down as being continued. Everybody had an early dart. And I think Tanya Humble's put on about the fact that this is just completely indicative of the way things are run. It's that block vote which just knackers everything. There is no right to reply to anything. They are just running roughshod with their own set of toys and trains, and I'm seeing more than ever now looking in on it, and it is a bloody shambles. I knew it was a shambles when I left. I know, Michael, you're on your 10th anniversary on the island now, and congratulations on that. And I'm sure, like me, when you first arrived, you thought, God, you know what, this place has got some potential. When I left 23 years later, I was thinking, God, this place has got some potential. Nothing ever changes. I don't know what it needs. Does it need a Manx spring? Has something got to radically change in the whole way that the public engage with its administration, or actually show that its lack of acceptance of things? Because this is a bloody mess, and they're still getting away with it. So, I don't see any change anytime soon coming along.
Michael?
Well, I think we'll have this election. The people of the Isle of Man should rightly take control in September. and cast their verdict then. It's only, what's that, 6 months or something away, and so I think that is the right and proper time. I'm sceptical of these votes of no confidence and these parliamentary manoeuvres, and I think that the best thing to do is for the people of the Isle of Man to have their say, because they're the boss.
They are the boss, but they have representatives in the House at this existing time, and I'm sure that they are talking to their constituents, and it would be very interesting to see what sort of feedback they're actually getting in terms of how the people on the street feel. Because what we can't do is wait another 5 years for another omnishambles to prevail. Because the island, every time it's clicking another minute nearer to midnight in terms of Armageddon. We see it. I was struggling to think the other day, when have I actually seen in the 23 years I was there a competent chief minister? When have I ever seen in those 23 years any real progress on the island other than this 34 years of unbroken growth? Well, it never felt like that. It just felt that it was in decline all the time. We've got Beirut reenacted on the promenade there. That's a complete shambles. Baker saying, hey, we're going to finish the trams. I'm going to come back to Tynwald in November. Mate, you might not be there in November. So, wake up and smell the coffee. Let it go. The money isn't there to spend on this extra extension going down to the Jubilee clock anymore. But they're just, I don't know, operating in this bubble where there seems to be no contact with the outside world. And I know I was listening to a politician the other day talking about how shocked he was when he actually went north for the first time and actually saw what the real world was like, and coming out of his privileged bubble and seeing what was actually going on over here. There's no excuse on the Isle of Man. You live, breathe and work amongst your people. It's like when you're a cop, you live, breathe and work amongst the good people and the not so good people. You get a feeling of what's going on, but they just seem completely oblivious to all this. It's unbelievable.
Well, there's no doubt about it. There is a common theme in the Tynwald Chamber, and the numbers are growing. I think you can add Daphne Kane into the list that I mentioned before. So maybe there is scope for a bit of a cohort to be formed amongst that group, because a lot of the questions, a lot of the material was duplicated in the Tynwald Chamber today, and that is wasting time. So I think the message is for those MHKs, if they are dissenting, if they are, they want to, force change, they've got to get their act together and be strategic and move forward in one body. And I really think if there is a surge, it's got to happen now or over the next few weeks. Michael, how are you doing? You've gone a bit blocky.
I'm doing good, and it's funny what Derek should mention there is if we move on to a new topic. And today is my 10th anniversary. 10 years ago today, I arrived on the Isle of Man on a little plane flying across a little Flybe plane. You remember them? The airline Flybe, which obviously has been dead a year now. But secondly, being able to fly on and off the island, such wonderful times. But 10 years ago today, hashtag Maniversary. After I shared on the Twitter my hashtag Maniversary, I did have a look to see what else, what other tweets there are of people using the hashtag Maniversary, and it is substantially comprised of people who have moved to Manchester some time ago and people who have changed their gender. And now there's Michael Josem and his 10-year anniversary of coming to the Isle of Man.
That's your
probably
option
stick an extra N in there just to differentiate.
Indeed, yeah. And so I think tying onto something that Derek just said is about optimism. And I am deeply optimistic for the future of the Isle of Man. Ultimately, that's why I bet my life on it. Literally, that's why I live here, right? And we all have a choice of whether or not to live here in the Isle of Man or to go further afield. And ultimately, I think that although there is short-term rocky seas, I think in the long term the Isle of Man has an opportunity to be a shining beacon for the world and to be something special, to bring that sense of community and closeness, of strong local institutions, of having a happy, healthy environment, a natural environment, and also to have thriving and growing and dynamic careers for the future and to make a real difference. not just for the people of the Isle of Man, but for our children and our children's children.
I agree, and I think it just needs the right set of people running it, people that are pragmatic, visionary, go ahead, and willing to seize the day. Also, with a bit of a nod to austerity in the back pocket, and a little bit less hubris. It's not a difficult formula, and the people are out there, but we just seem to be getting a bunch of chumps every time that the Council of Ministers is formed. It really is really sad, because even within Comyn, as individuals, there are some good people there. So you can only really sort of trace the DNA back to the very top of the tree and where the problem is within that cohort. I really do hope it changes, Michael. I love the place dearly, and it's heartbreaking to watch, to be honest with you, the way things have been going and continue to slide.
Well, I'm optimistic. I don't think of it as heartbreaking. I think this is an opportunity. And out of every fire, there will be embers, there will be new growth, and there will be new opportunities. And so one of the things I think I disagree with you a little bit there, Derek, is this idea of austerity, in that the Isle of Man, it has net savings of positive 40% of GDP or thereabouts. That means that the Isle of Man government its net assets is greater than zero, so that we have about 40% of GDP in savings, whereas the United Kingdom and United States of America are both at about minus 100, 110%. So we're plus 40, they're minus 100 or 110 or thereabouts. And so in that sense, I don't think now's the time for tax rises. I don't think now's the time for any major damage to the economy, because so many families are struggling, and there are some who are doing well. And there are some who are struggling. And so in that sense, I'd be very wary of calls for austerity. I saw there was a Labor lady from Laxey who's standing for the House of Keys, wanting to impose some sort of new, tax rise or something. And I think it's a bit...
I agree, Michael. I don't think that there is any need for tax rises, but I would like to see them stop spending money on shit, and things like sack off the tram side of things. Stop building bridges to nowhere. Concentrate on a decent education system. And I see that what's his face, Kinraid, has been appointed as permanent CEO. Is it Graham Kinraid?
It is.
Has been appointed as permanent CEO. Excellent job. He's got an awful lot of work to do and a big mountain to climb there, rebuilding that. The health service is, needing a little bit of an injection and a bit of stability. Law and order and public safety and things like that, the basics are where the money needs spending, but they continue with these highfalutin schemes. That's where I'd like to see the austerity, a bit of a trimming down of the aspirations and some of the spaff that you see at local authority level.
Maybe something we could agree on is we want value for money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
taxpayer
probably
money. Yeah, so taxpayer money is hard earned. And the government needs to remember that taxpayer money was hard earned because it was by taxpayers.
Yeah,
so value for money is what we need.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. I agree. Absolutely.
Well, I'll argue the toss there. I think there is room for some state assistance at the lower end, and I do think the injustice of the housing market and the way that has been allowed to run out of control, it's unregulated, and there's a planning system that is a wild horse, and we haven't had a contingency for first-time buyers. We don't have any help for those who are really struggling down there, because the cost of living, if you're earning less than £30,000 and you haven't got your own property, you're paying rent, the cost of living is extortionate, especially if you've got children. So I do think that there is scope to reshape how we set up our finances. And of course, with us being on the Isle of Man, we haven't got the facility to have a national debt, as it were, as they have in the UK and the USA. So we've got this pension legacy that is around, that no one seems to know what the truth is of that. Sometimes it's recorded as $1 billion, isn't it? The actual legacy itself. So we have got some issues to address. We've got the high net worth, with the status and the actual benefit that they give to the island. That's not quantified. It was dressed up as trickle-down economics, and for me, I'm not privy to that at all. I don't even believe it that we've got 68 people who are paying a fragment of tax compared to the rest of us. What is their actual benefit? If they're creating industry, they're creating jobs, they're bringing expertise, happy days. But I really think that if they're spending money on owning 300 houses or more and screwing those people in the rental market, I'm afraid there does need to be an adjustment. And this September, the Manx public will have seen a government in action that has failed to contain, this coronavirus. It's obvious that they've left the back door open, and by September, who knows what situation we're going to be in, and there could be a turnout for the election that goes beyond anything that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I'd predict that it'll be situation normal by September. Everything will be under control. Everybody will have forgotten. They'll be out granny farming, and you'll see pretty much a return to normal. It'll happen again. I would go as far as I always say my thing. If something happens, I'll show my backside in Burton's window. Can't do it anymore, obviously, with the demise of the high street, and I see that. Thornton's have gone to the wall today, another empty shop on Strand Street there. But it's a situation normal. You get apathy, you get weak candidates voted in. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'll be watching with a lot of interest, and I hope and I pray that the right people get in and somebody manages to get a grip of things and really turns the ship around, because, as Michael says, it should be the best place in the world. It deserves to be, and in many ways it already is. It just needs that little bit of topping and tailing, and it should be a destination of choice for living, for working, and for leisure as well.
And Michael, you heard the news there. Another shop gone in the high street. There must be 10 that are going to be vacant. 8 or 10 key properties. What
I wouldn't get ahead of ourselves there. In that I hear that Thornton's national chain is in trouble and closing. It is not clear to me whether the Thornton store here in the Isle of Man is directly owned by them or operated under a franchise model. And so I would hold back on pronouncements about the death of Strand Street. It is possible. I think retail is going through a tough time, especially physical retail. It's really difficult to make the argument to shoppers that you should go into the shop and drive into town or walk into town or cycle into town or whatever into town to make a transaction when you can get it on your phone delivered on the next day or the day after straight to your door. And so that convenience is difficult. But the opportunity there is for retail, for our high street, to be more than just a transaction, and for it to become an experience. Liverpool One is the iconic way in the Northwest of how to try and make shopping not just a transaction, but an experience. And so there's got to be opportunities to do that. And so that will require some confronting decisions, such as, for example, allowing people to build higher density in Strand Street of not just shops, but also residential property. Yeah. The property that used to be the butchers there in Fenton's, that I understand is going to have several apartments put on top. And we've also got to reconsider, some of the absurd decisions, such as the Isle of Man government protecting the literal ruins, the crumbling ruins of the old nuisance building that we talked about on a previous episode, and to allow people to invest, to build, to grow, and to create jobs, and to create experiences. So that way our high street does survive, and our high street can thrive, rather than just being manipulated by these backroom government bureaucrats who have no skin in the game and say no, no, no to everything.
Can you really see a residential development in Strand Street? I love the idea. I love the idea of a complete redesign.
It's under construction right now.
Yeah.
It's under construction right now.
But almost if you could move the shops all down into one area, and then the next level, the next periphery would be the residential area. And
maybe, but we're not playing a game of SimCity. We have to recognise the realities of the situation, and that is people own the shops. They're not going to move their shops. It's super risky for businesses to move and shuffle around. And so what I hope we can do is we can allow that when people want to pay money to build high quality and affordable housing in the centre of town, which is good for the environment. It's good for jobs. It's good for working class men and women who can get jobs building them. It's good for our young people who can get jobs, working in the various shops and the services that will pop up. And it's good ultimately for the people of the Isle of Man. And so we ultimately have a choice: is do we want to be a museum of the past, or do we want to create opportunity for the future? And if we want to create opportunity for the future, then it means, that crumbling nuisance building probably going to have to go. We're going to have to allow some people to build on top of the ruins of the Lord Street or Fort Street or whatever the various literally ruined car park asphalt that is literally scars in the centre of our capital.
Maybe they could do like they do in York and have the Jorvik Museum, where actually they've built modern day York onto it. You go underneath and look at the foundations of what was the nuisance building. You might find the odd set of high-tech trainers or a couple of welly boots or fishing rod down there or something like that. You're absolutely right. And the thing is, you can restore these buildings sympathetically. You look at, I think I mentioned last time, what Historic England does in terms of building structures within ruins to preserve the past but modernise it. And that juxtaposition is really cool. And people come to see that side of things. But I mean, I think we've turned it in the moaning line a little bit here tonight, and when you're continually sort of coming up with ideas and seeing the positives and looking at the future and looking at the opportunities that are there and what the Isle of Man could be known for, it's very frustrating, because planning is one of those things where it really could be a very permissive planning system. And I don't look at, say we were talking about high net worth before. If somebody comes and they've made $1 million or billions in tech or whatever, and they want to build something that looks like it's off Moonbase Alpha off Space 1999, let them build it. It's no different. It's no different than the mill owners in the 18th century say, "Hey, we've done all right here. Let's go to Isle of Man and build an house out there." It's no different than that. It's that projection of wealth and where people want to come and settle, whether it be for tax reasons or whatever. And then, you can get Kevin McLeod walking around and saying, look at this fantastic thing and how it's blending into the society and all this sort of stuff, and how it juxtaposes and pushes back history and all that sort of lovely stuff that he does. It puts you on the map. It puts you on the map for the right reasons, for progression, for your clean tech approach, for your green approach. All these sort of things is what we should be getting the headlines for right now. But it's opportunity missed on every single occasion. As a bit of a sort of PR sort of bod, it really sort of frustrates me, because the opportunities are there for everything.
Perhaps we need to get a little bit smarter and make it an absolute privilege to come and live here, and almost accept people in and try and have a contract with them, a community contract, because I know there's a lot of high net worths who do a lot of work right across the community in business and charity and just general good people, philanthropic acts, which is great. And I think maybe we could nurture that. Michael, you're pulling your face. You're pulling your face. What's...
I just don't care about the high net worth individuals, all 10 of them or 20 or 100 or how many. I just don't care
58,
about.
I think.
But
58.
The thing is, Michael, I've known quite a few of them now, and what I've found with a number of them is they came, they were bowled over by the place. Yeah, I want to live there. That's fantastic. But you know what? I want to give something back. I want to get involved. I want to develop places. I want to give some of my expertise. I've got a pal who's he's got a brain the size of a planet in terms of tech, and I know that he's tried to help, but government just pushed back against him, and eventually they go, you know what, fine, it's all right, I'll sit over here and thanks for the tax breaks, but I'll just get on with my life now. And they lose interest. So that if you're not going to integrate people, and then eventually a better deal comes up in Portugal, and it's, look at that, there's sunshine over there, we're off. And they can afford to board up a £2.5 million house. It's small change to them, and go and do the things that they do elsewhere with a bit of sun in the face and heat in the bones. So it's sending the right message, because these people have huge networks as well. They talk to people, and when they have that conversation how things are on the Isle of Man, and they go, pull up a sandbag, I've got a few tales to tell you. It's not good marketing, because they work at the political level elsewhere. They talk to other friends, other people that might relocate, and they're not selling the place anymore. That's why we're seeing a very big slowdown in the numbers that are actually coming to live on the island now. It's really sad, and seeing some notable people doing one as well, like John Morpett, who had Bishop's Court.
That was the case in point, wasn't it? Really, that was the one where he was going to be delivering something that was only going to generate revenue and jobs and be pretty and beautiful, and then somehow it got squashed, and the guy said, right, sod you, I'm going to go, I'm going to take my money with me, and that's it. And Bishop's Court has now been bought, and I think it's still vacant. I don't know what the future is for that one, but it'd be great if we can have someone who's going to put something back into our fair isle.
Well, look at it. It's an investment property, isn't it? Morpeth made about £1 million on it. So it's whoever's bought it this time will sit on it for 10 years and make another £1 million out of it. It's an investment property. Somebody's always going to catch their eye with it. But this is what we're into, rather than actually people wanting to come in bed, put money into the place, other than generous donations to hospice or whatever, which is very much welcomed. But they're not putting it into that wider society because they're not being allowed to, whether it's in terms of talent or whether it's in terms of wealth distribution. I hope things genuinely do get better, because it's about time the place turned a corner again. It has done in the past, and it's due for that churn and turn again. But crikey, it's hard work watching. It really is. It's like watching an elderly relative being poorly and not getting any better. You just sit there and pray that they're going to turn the corner.
Well, Michael, the key's got to be September, hasn't it? That's the only way that change is going to happen. There's no other way.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. Not the only way, but it's a big part. And so the government is now looking to update the electoral rolls. If you're not already registered, register to vote, and you can have your say in a very formal way on September. Otherwise, you're always welcome to have your say in the comment box here on YouTube or on the social media as well. So,
well, it's your maniversary. I'm just going to ask you, so in the last 5 years, in this last administration, for both of you actually, it's a question. What can Tynwald hang their hat on? What has been the great achievement in the last 5 years?
Blimey. I think they've stood still. I really do. I think they've stood still. I don't think the island has moved forward in any shape or form, because even things like things that have cropped up, like there's no climate emergency. Hang on, there's a climate emergency, and the way that's being administered, the climate change fund, all they're doing is spending it on themselves rather than actually putting them into to green projects and actually sort of moving things forward. And all the dates are so far in the distance as to not matter. So I think what you see is initiatives and opportunities have arisen, and policy has been written, but very much in the way that Vision 2020 was. Remember that. Nothing actually ever happens with it. Very good at writing policies that have no substance, meaning, or progress. I think
in 5 years, what is it? What's the project? What's the way ahead? Michael, where is it?
So I think there have been several good things that have happened. I think that the Chief Minister's apology to people who had previously been convicted of homosexual intercourse and sex and the various crimes, historical crimes associated with that, I think it is good that those people convicted of such crimes are pardoned. In the Treasury Department, there have been some minor tinkering of the personal allowances, which has moved a few people out of the income tax system entirely. In the education department, I think it was plagued a big chunk of the time of the last 5 years was with this warfare with teachers, which was a bit disappointing. Um, in the infrastructure department, well, that's just been a mess. Whether it's been the money spent on the Liverpool landing stage or Douglas Promenade or the rail bridges to nowhere in the northwest of the island, or the water slide in the NS Slee, which is still incomplete and is still hundreds of thousands of pounds over budget. And so I think those are the key government departments. So I accept that each of these are a bit lame, but this is really it's a weak source government ultimately, in that they did not come into government 5 years ago with a clear vision of reform, and it is a bit underwhelming. And so perhaps the best thing is that they did not ruin the Isle of Man too badly.
Oh, and don't forget Manx Gas as well, and having not been able to sort that debacle out. It really is. There is no legacy.
I think it would be fair to say.
I think it's slid, and that is something that they should hang their heads in shame. Especially a proud Manxman like Howard should really hang his head in shame, because he's done nothing for the place. And it's not through wanting people screaming at them and trying to come up with good ideas and give them a nudge in the right direction. Just not interested. It's absolutely scandalous, really. And
the other government department I think might be worth considering also is the health department, in that we've got to acknowledge that the death rate to COVID in the Isle of Man is basically in line with the global average. So we've not been a standout performer in either direction there. It's been pretty average, and I think that's fair to say. Although that said, the government did invest in enhancing some of the facilities 11, 12 months ago now. And that after they got off with their very slow start, there was a period of great devastation and desperation here in the Isle of Man, where for a big chunk of time the Isle of Man had one of the 10 highest death rates to COVID in the world. But 6.5 months of essentially no transmission of coronavirus on the island from the middle of June until the end of December meant that our death rate did fall to about the global average. And so in that sense, we did better than the UK. We did about the same as Guernsey. So, there are some good parts of that.
I think looking back over the 5 years, I think we've got the legislation in relation to the abortion element, and that was a move forward for somewhere that had quite a medieval approach. And Michael, you mentioned about the homosexuality apology, but I'm not sure whether there were pardons issued, and I'm not even sure whether the Isle of Man police actually apologised as well for the treatment and the hounding of many of those people that suffered in the 1990s. We had inquiries, huge reports into the governance of the health service and the education, and they are hopefully going to be implemented. But really, they are just a sad reflection of the status and the events that ran up to those reports being initiated, and it's been quite a poor show. You just try and scan the 5 years and just think, well, where is it? Where is the achievement? We've got an issue with reducing population, housing crisis, lowering birth rate. We haven't got educational opportunities on the island. Da-de-da-de-da. We've got some real challenges ahead starting from September, and the public has got to have a keen eye on getting the right team in place, because if we don't, we're just going to have another 5 years of Gloomsville.
And that's pretty much what I would predict. I mean, notwithstanding that these matters, like you say, that the apologies for the way homosexuals are treated, the abortion bill. Not to say that these weren't important issues, but they are sideshows to the main strategic issues. They are tactical sideshows, and it is this need to move forward, to keep the books balanced, to keep income going, to look at the next big thing. I mean, you look at what they're doing now with cannabis. and you think, wait, fantastic, there's a new dawn there in terms of cannabis production. Then they're just fudging around with regard to medicinal cannabis and legislation and legalizing cannabis for recreational use. Just get on with it. Get yourself on the map and do something about it. Get farmer grade cannabis available for GPs to prescribe, and also, if you want to grow a couple of plants for your own personal use, crack on. Who's bothered? Nobody's bothered. I've been saying this. I was saying this for decades when I was a cop. My view hasn't changed on it. I'm not a user, but I recognise people's right to use cannabis, and I also recognise the relatively little harm that it does compared to other legally available products such as tobacco and alcohol. So if you want a big, brave, bold, grown-up approach, then do that. The other interesting one, which is on the horizon, is that from 2022, all vehicles which are sold in the UK as part of the harmonisation with EU directives will have speed limiters on them.
Yeah.
So when you pass a de-restricted sign, you'll find that unless you actually make a positive effort and actually put your foot past that point, it won't go faster than 60 miles an hour. So then you've got all sorts of ethical issues in terms of that sort of cropping up. If you have a crash at 100 miles an hour, how's your insurer going to view that? All sorts of stuff. So some real interesting times ahead, some big grown-up debates for the island to have with itself over the coming months and into the next 5-year term. And I hope that those conversations do take place.
Well, the achievement has been posted by one of the viewers, and it is. We missed it. It was buying the Steam packet. So there we have it. That's the gold star.
Wouldn't hang my head on that one either.
We'll see. Well, Michael, I think it's party time now. We've got the Maniversary.
Indeed, and so to anyone listening, I'm just having a few drinks on the online video thing. It's a very, very pandemic era celebration. So anyone who wants to join, message me privately. Obviously, I can't post the link publicly because I don't want it to get derailed by various trolls and griefers and people causing hassle. But if anyone would like to join for a drink, message me privately and I'd hook you up. And nothing too formal.
If you're not on the list, you're not getting in.
I'll go get the sparkly top on there.
Anyone who wants to join, they're always welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, boys. Thank you for the commentators as well, posting opinions and so forth. So if you're watching during the week, please, you can comment on the YouTube page, and please catch up with us again. Hopefully the signal will be better. We were a bit slow getting going there, but it's been lovely chatting to you lads, and maybe we'll meet up online later. So see you. Goodbye.
Yeah, guys.